Yes, I can hear you, Jeff. Because you're doing too good of a job.
Two, three, four, testing one. Now it's working. Well, I don't know what happened to this. Save it. Okay. Can you hear me now, Dennis?
Well, I can hear you, Jeff.
Okay, we're working. We're back in business here. Can you join us on the show, Dennis? See if you see what's going
Oh,
on.
oh yeah. Okay, I'll check the screen. Okay.
Yeah, it should be. We should be on restart. And we okay. Well, anyway, the reason why we had a problem on our microphones, I guess, but I'm really not that proficient at this. So if you know anybody who wants to help us do this kind of work, we can use all the help we need, we can get, if we want to continue to do this. Here's the problem. The purpose of the programming is to not find the problem, is to find a solution. We feel as though if we could put a measurement on human beings, not in money, how much are you worth? We put a measurement that all humanity has to have their basic needs met. In other words, their education, food, and shelter. But we can measure the food is 1,000,000 energy units or calories of food a year. The water is about 1,000,000 energy units of from the sun evaporation. We need them or we'll die. And shelter can be measured. And wants are different. Wants is what makes human beings human. We all want something a little different. We all have our own ridiculous opinions. We all have different wants, but our needs are exactly the same. Our education, like how soon should we retire? How many hours a week should we work? Now, if you have to work for the basic needs met, then you're in a point, 20, 15 hours a day, or to get your basic needs met for two or three people, then you're in slavery. So, but today's technology should allow us all to work about a day a week or 1 hour a day to get basic needs met. And once we measure that, like agree to that, and we call that a human renewable energy measure. That's the point of it. So that's where we're coming from, and I'm hoping that this connects. And the reason why we're talking about ExxonMobil is not because it's a bad or good company. It's an excellent company. They lie, they cheat, they steal, just like any other company to make
That
a
is
profit
right.
in this economic
This
world.
is accepted
No matter
behavior
what you see in
because of the way that the economic system is organized.
right, what you see in the Middle East, when you see regimes put into office to make sure people
When,
maximize their profit for their
when
stockholders.
you have an economic system
That has no
that's
value.
goal is profit, and the money that is being used to organize payment and the distribution of profit and
They're not
whatever, they don't distribute it right. They don't distribute it fairly.
They don't distribute. They distribute
may
money.
I make my point?
Okay.
The money itself it can be manipulated in terms of its value within an economic system that only main goal is profit making for companies, and the companies themselves become mega
But
companies
the main-
like
but the-
ExxonMobil,
but-
like pharmaceutical companies.
This is very
et cetera.
important to get this out.
Right.
The main goal is to make money or make gold or make silver, because people believe that the gold or the silver or the fiat currency has value because other people believe it has value. The reality is, what's the most valuable thing you have is your mind and your life and your body. That's what's valuable.
It's limited.
The question is, we've never been able to measure it or even thought about measuring it before. Bucky Fuller used to say, Buckminster Fuller would say, you can measure it in kilowatt hours. And the reason why he went to kilowatt hours, and we use energy measurements, is because you can't manipulate energy measurements, and every human being requires the same amount of food and shelter, which is measurable in energy units, basic energy units. So if we design the economic system for all humanity, has to have their basic needs met. And energy units, that's your minimum. Then you can convert that to some kind of economic wage, gold, silver, fiat currency, it doesn't matter. And then you allow the free market to take effect. So if you want a Lexus or a fancy house or 10 houses or boats or whatever you choose to want, you can work for that. So you're not eliminating your free market. This is not.
Well, the free market has been eliminated. I mean, you can make that.
Well, the free market is not a free market, is the problem.
At this time, we have no free market.
What I'm suggesting is that we really should have a free market, that we have functionality within our government. And it is very functional for very wealthy people, very people who can want to control the way the economic system works now. They control the media.
At the cost of destruction of the climate
and
the natural resources of the planet.
And all humanity.
And eventually.
All living life.
But if you make that point to people, they say that's over the top. So we're trying, that's why we try to contain the message that Jeff just was saying, the concept of basic needs, the economic system primarily focusing on the basic needs of humans around the world before the free market, which it would be a real free market, then can start to function for people who are interested in having more than their basic needs met. And not everyone is. You know, some people want to do things that don't pay money. Some people want to, and there are lots of very significant things that don't translate to money. And it's not hard for us to figure what those are. You know, raising children is one of them. Taking care of elderly family members or sick family members is another one. Making any kind of artistic pursuits are non-translatable for the most part until people decide they want to profit off of a certain individual who's become notorious for some reason. But most of that is in the dark monetarily. People who are doing basic research in science, most of the time that's non-translatable. Their time is non-translatable into money, because most of them don't work for.
They enjoy what they're doing and
ExxonMobil.
they're helping, right? By
So
the way, Dennis,
anyway,
are you still there, Dennis? Dennis, are you still there?
Dennis,
Okay, good. So the program,
Okay, I don't see, you're able to refine the show. I'm just curious.
well, let me
No,
go on.
I
Let me-
am
while
trying
you
right
guys
now.
are talking about whether or not, you're on the show, I'm gonna read the, what I wrote for the, summary today, just to focus us, and we put this concept of the human renewable energy measure, which puts into the economic system, if we all decide to do it, puts that idea of meeting basic needs first and foremost within our economics. Our economics can serve any possibility, and right now it's serving profit. We can make it serve basic human needs of food, shelter, and education.
But
And we
not
are renewable energy. Robots are not doing all the work. Don't even begin to go there. Humans are doing the work on this planet. We are renewable energy. Companies are going around the world to find humans that'll work for the least amount of money so that they can make the most amount of profit. This is what we're dealing with now. We cannot meet, and I'm so I want to encourage these lawyers and these attorneys general and wherever they are, all over our country, and Eric Schneiderman for initiating this incredible investigation, which had to be done. Someone had to get up there and say, I'm gonna investigate, and thank you, Attorney General Eric T. Schneiderman, and don't stop. There is a way to make this case, and it doesn't mean that you're gonna bring down the economy. Wait, let me finish my statement. There are other attorneys general that have joined this pursuit of getting more information out of ExxonMobil. It's making the company nervous. We don't want to crush huge companies. We want to refocus their behavior. We are couching the concept of the human renewable energy measure within the context of what's happening at this time in our lives. And it's important for us to see what the present functioning of the economic system does.
I can show you very clearly. This week, there's such a thing as an EpiPen.
There you go. It's just in the news now.
It's just in the news this week, and the EpiPen's been around forever. It's always been, it's a very cheap drug. But it's a way, if someone gets stung and they're allergic to something, it's a way to keep them alive. They stab themselves in the leg and they push this drug in, and it keeps them from their
going
throat,
into shock, and their body swelling up and closing
their throat closes up and they lose their air and they die. Right. Well, they come out with this pin called an EpiPen. A lot of people who are allergic
can carry it around.
Well, because of profit, another company bought the patent for it, and they came up with a little different way of delivering it, and they raised the price to where it's unaffordable
by most people.
Most people.
Right.
I mean, insurance companies, and they're trying, and then of course Congress got really upset with this.
This is an obvious
now, unfortunately,
what is it? Abuse of the economic system.
But that's the way it works. If I buy a patent,
most companies.
If I buy a patent, and I buy a patent on air, and I say to you, it's going to cost you 4 hours a day of your working life to be able to breathe the air. Dennis, what would you do if I did that?
And actually, that is
I want to get Dennis
the level at which ExxonMobil is getting to that level because of the contamination.
I want to get Dennis's opinion, please.
Yes, but
Dennis, what would you do if I bought the air, a patent on the air, and told you you've got to work for me 4 hours a day to get your air?
Well, I would try to move to another planet.
Well, you wouldn't be able to because it costs you too much money.
Yeah, well.
You see, that's the point. The
economic, some of the very wealthy
but I am doing exactly what the economic system demands.
It goes to a point of absurdity.
I'm able to buy the air. And I'm saying, okay, you can live, but you got to work 4 hours a day picking up sticks around my vast properties. So then I'll give you your air. And then I want you to make sure that I have someone who cooks for me. You get your air. If you cook for me for 4 hours a day, you can work for me for 4 hours a day. I become a very wealthy elite. And therefore, that's what's happening around the world now.
Well,
The wealthy people are making it so difficult for normal people to function. So we say, and you say, we have a dysfunctional government. Well, the reality is that that's the way our economic system dictates to work. So the only way to change that
and
problem.
the companies or individuals that are the most successful at using the economic system as it exists are the ones that are going to benefit the most, and usually
From laws.
and they change laws, and they inherit monies,
Now,
and they
now the reason
goes
why
on
it's
and
so
on and on.
important to go on to prosecute a company like ExxonMobil is because it shows
Right now it's just an investigation.
it shows that the way the system itself works.
Right. This is what's so important. Is
That's
that
the important
right,
part, not what ExxonMobil, not the actual act, but the lying, the fraud, the
Well,
cheating to make
now
profit.
why is that happening?
Okay, go ahead.
Because that's what the economics demands. At all costs, profit must be made. This is the silent motive of any company that's at the level of ExxonMobil, or it's not the only company that does this, obviously. Pharmaceutical companies all around the world are competing for each other at these same kinds of levels. And I've made a statement maybe on another program that I believe that this is the bubble that's being created right now, the economic bubble, because it's going to be prices going up from the pharmaceutical companies, insurance companies saying we can't pay this, we have to charge the consumer more. Okay, so here's the bubble forming. You can see the interactions, like good cop, bad cop, between the pharmaceuticals and the insurance companies, and we're the ones who are going to pay the higher insurance prices, because everybody has to buy insurance now. And there's no controls
And who
over
wrote the laws?
and there's no
And
controls over how much
and
that insurance is
Who
going to
wrote
go
the
up.
law?
Okay, so
for-
here's the next
But-
bubble, and it's like we've all inherited a school loan debt for the rest of our lives. That's what it is.
And
It's
that's
very
because,
much
and
the
that's
same
because
as
the
the
way
position.
Obama got his health care plan passed was he had the insurance companies
Instead of
write the laws.
instead of single payer, which it should have been, but let's not even go there. We can do another
But he
program on
had
that.
them write the laws.
But let's get back. Yes,
Okay,
he
so-
let the insurance companies write the laws, which in other words, and of course
And
there's
the oil
collusion.
companies write their laws.
There's collusion between insurance companies and pharmaceutical
And
companies.
but the
They benefit.
obvious problem is that the economic system is controlling the politics worldwide. It's controlling our.
But
Go ahead. I'm
let's go back to the investigation of ExxonMobil. As I was trying to say before, don't stop. Attorneys General, more of you have to join this. More people need to investigate. They'll put up blockades but it's so important. But we can't meet this company on the status quo, old school economic platform. If you meet them there and try to make your case within the terms of our economic system, we will not be able to make any progress. And progress can only be calculated in terms of we'll see the other energy making technologies that are much I mean, they could make the case, I'm sure, to say that our digging and drilling is the best technology anywhere, but it's not the best technology for preserving the climate and resources of a finite planet, which is what we are. We have better energy methods. We have solar, wind, biomass, We have, of course, water power, and if you don't destroy rivers doing it. We have ocean power. We have technologies, tidal,
Tidal wave
have,
technology,
well, just tidal
generators.
generators. And these technologies have existed, what, for 40, 50 years
More.
now? They are being refined, even though they're not subsidized as the oil companies have been all these years, maybe 60 to 100 years of subsidizing they've benefited from, at least in the United States. These technologies have been evolving in the worst possible conditions, because they've been beaten up on by the oil companies, because petroleum is their product, and they have to have the whole market share. They have to have it all. And I wrote, they will brook no competition. Biofuels, get rid of those. Wind generation, oh, that kills birds. Solar costs too much and destroys trees, don't you know? ExxonMobil will not diversify. This is what we need. We need diversification of our energy systems.
Of our large companies, not just
and our companies have to be.
And they have to be they have to be able to factor in they have to factor in the entire problem. They have to put in the fact
but they don't. They aren't required to under the terms of economics today. It isn't a political problem. It's an economic.
They have to look at economies of integration, not economies of scale. Economies of integration. You have to integrate the fact that people live a certain amount of years. They have to breathe
physical
air.
Realities have to be integrated into
effect
the
life cycle of humanity and the damage they're doing. Not economies of scale, which is what companies base themselves on, how much money they can make, but economies of integration. That's not my words, by the way. That is a friend of ours who got it from someone else. But you have to integrate how much damage you are doing. Part of that economies of integration. That takes into account how many soldiers you put into another part of the world that's on our planet to take over their natural resources, to take into account how much physical, verbal abuse you're putting out to different religions. The damage you're doing because of that people have to work so many hours of their life into slavery.
The damage that's being done, to the most to the science of climate,
the lies, the
and
cheating.
Yes, because they've had this. ExxonMobil has had scientists on their staff advising them, and this is an important thing. When did they advise them, their company, that fossil fuels or petroleum product is damaging climate, and that humans are, by burning it, by buying it and burning it, are damaging climate worldwide? When did the company know this? And then what did they do with the information? Clearly, by the most recent publications, which is called The Lamp, they are not saying we're going to diversify into less damaging energy producing technologies like solar, wind, and biomass. No, they're not going to do that. They're saying what they're doing is, as this land is defrosting in the Arctic, they're going over there and getting ready to drill there. They're capitalizing on the information. They're making more profit from the information that they're getting from their scientists. Instead of changing their behavior to be less damaging, and to not to use the more advanced energy technologies that diversify and decentralize energy, which is actually supposed to be militarily great. Not that I'm going to promote military possibilities with this, but that's something that
Here's another one of the
You know,
problems that can be resolved. If we put a measurement onto the economic system so all humanity has to have their basic needs met, all this stuff disappears because
okay.
no, okay, let me finish this. What happens is every single time we damage the planet to make profit, someone comes up with a counter solution to charge you more money to do something different. In other words, if they create cancer, cancer is a huge business in this country. Well, then they have the insurance companies charging you X amount of dollars for health insurance to counteract the cost of the cancer. If you have a problem with the food you're eating because of GMOs or whatever reasons there are to make profit, then they counteract with health foods, and the health foods cost you more. So you're working even harder in your life so you can stay alive longer. If you're a religious person and you talk about this project being a religious person, they take away your nonprofit status, so you got to work harder. You're controlled by the economic system all over the world. And if you dare to open up your mouth like we are in some cases, they try to belittle you and put you down because you don't know what you're talking about. If we're talking about, Susan and I addressed 170 some odd countries in split Croatia several years ago. And the poor countries loved the concept of the human renewable energy measure. But the wealthy countries said, you can't do it. You talk to people who are professional people, who are smart people. They are so brainwashed that they don't want to see, they can't see that there's another way to look at the problem. We call that group of people, not that they're bad people, they're paralyzed. They're paralyzed by the system. They can't see beyond it. They're intellectually paralyzed, and that's a shame because for me this is a pretty easy thing to see, and it was brought to me by a physicist to explain to me how human beings function. They need to have X amount of energy units for food and shelter. That was pretty obvious to me, and that's how we have to.
This is a physical.
It's a physical thing.
Right.
And once you see that human beings require physical things, and by the way, it's physical things not just for life, it's for death.
And
if you get hit by a truck, you're probably going to die. If someone takes a gun to you and puts it in front of your body and shoots you with it, you're going to die. Those are physical. Very rarely are you going to walk away from that accident or that intentional killing. And an earthquake, there was just an earthquake. When the earth, and that kills people. That's physical, and people really don't like to see. And it was a big deal. We had an earthquake, killed 300 people.
But that's like a major thing that's very obvious to people. But every day we are dealing with physical things. Being able to have enough food, being able to have shelter, to have the education so that you can interrelate with your community in a significant way. All these things are physical things that are ongoing, but because we do it all the time, they become, almost
you don't
hidden,
see it. You don't
you
see
don't
it.
think
It's
about
obvious.
it as
It's like you don't see the elephant in the room because you walked around his feet.
Extremely
If you walk,
because people can be killed by economic terrorism, you can call it, but economic stresses do kill people every day.
I want to bring something out that's physical, and it's very important to see this. If you're working on a project and you have a huge mess in the middle of your garage or your house or wherever, and you don't start to clean it up, you don't notice how bad the mess is.
It overwhelms you.
It's
right?
overwhelming. It just grows, and you don't see it. A stranger can walk in and look at that mess they got in the place.
Right.
Now, if you clean that mess up and you get it very functional and there's plenty of room to move and walk and it looks good and comfortable, not fancy, just comfortable, no one notices that mess because it's the way it's supposed to be. What Dennis says is things are very dysfunctional. That's pretty obvious to most people who are looking at it from the outside, and they realize we can't function in this mess that we have in the government. But the government doesn't see it. ExxonMobil doesn't see the damage they're doing.
Well,
That's
it's
their
not the
job.
government, it's the economic
But
system.
the government allows them to function like that.
Mm.
And they are and it's creating a dysfunctional
Well-
government where we all can see and that's why we're trying to vote people in for change.
Oh.
But the reality is the people who are controlling the mess in the House are the same people who are controlling the mess in the government. They don't want to see it.
Well, they want the status quo to remain.
And they like it the way it is. They're
Right.
comfortable
So-
with it
Solutions are not gonna come
from the government down.
or from companies like
Oh.
ExxonMobil, but their behaviors can be changed if you change the context that these governments and companies are working within, and the context that they're working within is economics. It is a human system. It can be changed. They can be changed. The focus, the purpose of our economics worldwide can be changed to a fulfillment of human needs, not a fulfillment of profit as the only reason for it to exist. I want to go back to the investigation that is was initiated by Eric Snyderman, the Attorney General of New York State, and other attorneys general of other states have joined in, as many as 20, maybe more now, and that it's I hope it builds and builds and builds, because this is going to tell people about how their economics works, what it is actually doing at this time, and how it should be changed. But what they're trying to do is find if ExxonMobil committed fraud. And I looked up the definition of fraud, F-R-A-U-D, fraud. And this is just one definition: wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. Okay, here we've got a company that had on its staff research scientists who told them the truth about what is going on with climate in terms of the burning of petroleum product and how it's being damaged. We're just talking about climate now. The drilling in the oceans all over the world is also destroying habitat and destroying the obvious things like coral reefs. All the coral reefs in Florida Bay are dead. They're dead because we have in the Gulf of Mexico the thousands of oil rigs, and that water washes through. There's one small little Earth Marathon in the Keys, a small section of coral reef that still survives. There used to be thousands and thousands of acres of coral reef. I don't want to even go any further into that. Okay, wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. Their intention is clear: profit at any cost. The information that they give their investors and stockholders is to calm them, and not to, even though they had the knowledge as a company of the damage they were doing, they were, to the present day, they are not changing their behavior. Other words, other synonyms for this: cheating, swindling, embezzlement, deceit, deception, double dealing, chicanery, fraudulence is another word for fraud, obviously. their slogan is profit at all costs,
That's their slogan.
as far as I can see. And in this night 2014,
Let me hold that up a little bit closer so you see the lamp. This is their magazine. Can you see that, Dennis?
and it's clear, it's very
Oh.
important to realize, there's the word, that all through this economic collapse, it's been worldwide, they have not suffered any drop in their income. Their incomes have continued to rise. Their shareholders have continued
To make
to
money.
make money, and there are changes in the share.
And that's how the CEO of the company keeps his job. He makes sure the stockholders keep on gaining a little bit more every single month. I think we have one share of ExxonMobil.
That's why we get this.
And we get the
book.
lamp. And
And that was a joke on the part of one of our friends at our wedding.
then anyway.
But anyway, let me just make the point, and I'm going to this article in the Lamp.
But
Repeal the U.S. biofuels mandate. This is an article.
and look, they put a woman in the front page.
Right, and doesn't she look nice? Right, and look at all the cars in the background. Oh, it's going to affect your car. Definitely, you don't want that. We don't want more biofuels.
Well, we run our Prius on biofuels. We run our truck on biofuels. Our diesel.
Biofuels
They're
can
fine.
be diesel, biodiesel, or they can be
Ethanol.
ethanol.
Alcohol.
And ethanol, alcohol can be made from any organic
Waste,
decomposing
garbage.
material. We were going through one of the rivers here in New York yesterday. There's all kinds of
Weeds
weed
and-
growing to the sides of the river. And we were thinking, boy, if someone harvested that and fermented it for biofuels, that would really, it wouldn't be, a
Water
hazard to
chestnuts and water
navigation.
chestnuts are
It would
great.
be a benefit.
And it
And it's not to say that burning biofuels doesn't create
some problems, but less problems than we're
than
doing
burning
now. The carbon.
carbon, which is, and Jeff described this in the last program, that a carbon coming from deep in the earth, like coal or petroleum, liquid petroleum, or whatever is being brought to the surface. This has been underground for millions of years, compressing, and it brings with it all kinds of other materials that are then released through burning into the atmosphere that a carbohydrate does not. Burning in it can't, we don't want to have to burn things to make energy, but there are less damaging burns. Let's put it that way. It would be great if, but we need at this point liquid transportation fuel until we can convert entirely our fleets of cars and everything to electric, which then you can get from the solar inputs and solar power stations. We are doing this now as personal people.
It's still
We have a car that we can plug in, and we have solar panels.
I want to bring
But
something.
let me
I
say
want to
that
bring something out while you're saying that,
Right.
because there's some truth to this. To build a solar panel creates a tremendous amount of
You need
pollution.
heat. You need heat to do
You
it.
need
Right.
heat. You need fossil fuel to burn to make that solar panel. You have to make aluminum and glass. That takes a
Right.
tremendous amount of
And
energy.
then
And there are people who say the net energy gain is not that much different than if you just burn fossil fuel. However,
over the life of the panel.
once you build a panel
Mhm.
and you now learn how to recycle that panel to the better technology,
Right.
you're now that's a learning
You can
curve.
perpetuate that one panel into the future for 50 years or more. And right now they have about a 25-year life
Span, but
span.
as the
But it's more
technology
than that.
grows,
That's conservative.
you take those panels out and you rework them so you're not using so much
You're not right.
energy to make the panel.
Re-impacting. And then of course people say, oh, you're clearing trees to put all these stations, these solar stations up. Well, okay, you're trees are a resource that can
Actually,
be
actually, if you just put the panels on lands where there's no trees,
right, and they're
like
landfills,
deserts,
right.
like clear things
There
that
are lots
don't
of
grow
places,
trees,
right.
that
But
you can put them in the
fortunately,
oceans. You can put them anywhere that you
there are more.
that you don't have to get rid of trees to put panels in. We use a pasture land to put our panels because we like trees around the house. Because the house is then shaded for the sunlight.
But
So you
even
don't need air
if there
conditioning.
is some clearing involved with a very large solar power array that's meant for functioning for maybe 10,000 houses or equivalent population, trees can be regenerated within 5 to 10 years. They grow from a seedling to a full tree within
like a
5
hybrid
to
poplar, right?
yeah, or even just your hardwoods. So this is not something
Hardwood.
that we cannot replace, as we cannot replace coral reefs. We cannot replace the whole Gulf of Mexico. We cannot replace the coastlines and the life forms that are being damaged by oil spills. These things will take hundreds and millions of years.
I want to put a plug in here for us.
And luckily there are still a lot more trees on this planet than humans.
I need to interrupt. Here's the deal. Yesterday I was talking to a fellow in one of the supermarkets. He was an engineer, but he was working in the supermarket. And we got talking, and he said when he was younger and he went to college, he did a thesis on biofuels. And I explained to him, I said, go on our website and look at, and I don't know if Dennis, if you have you been to this, have you bothered to look at the, no one looks at the stuff we explain, but if you go to the Infinite Power Texas on our website, our Bridges Programming website, you will see the Infinite Power of Texas talks about wind, sun, and biomass. And on the back of that is a Steven Seagal excerpt from On Deadly Ground, where he gives a great speech about the damage of fossil fuel. And that's a 20-year-old movie. So please look at that movie so you can comment on it. I mean, here we are flapping our gums, but we work so hard to put these things up on our website. We get people to help us do it because we're not proficient enough at this. So we have to hire people to do it. That piece of work has been out there from On Deadly Ground for years. A great movie that I don't like shoot 'em up stuff, but on the backside of that was a phenomenal speech that Seagal gave, which we asked permission to use on our pardon me, to go on to a website, spend 15 minutes
Okay, you need to cough.
looking at that.
Okay, the point that's being made in this article that we showed you with the nice lady, and she's the senior fuels advisor for ExxonMobil, is that they're trying to say, and this is I'll just read it. The EPA should limit its ethanol mandates to no more than 9.7% of total U.S. gasoline demand. That would ensure that the gasoline sold at service stations across America does not pose any threat to the tens of millions of automobile engines not warranted by car manufacturers to handle gasoline with more than 10% ethanol.
Well, just fix the engines, not change the fuel source.
Right. Their point is that all these older cars with older engines and older boats with older engines that are not prepared to, okay, yes, but at this point, when we know, and we know that the climate is being damaged, and we can do less damage and start to wean ourselves into better technologies for energy gathering. And a company like this is asserting that they want to hold the ethanol and biofuels and biodiesel component of gasoline content to 9.7. Well, this is ethanol, less than 10%. When this is a suppression of information for the profit,
put your foot in the door.
For the profit making of a company. They are being duplicitous. They are self-serving in making statements of this kind. and it just, there are flex fuel vehicles that have been made for how long now?
20 years.
Yeah, almost 30 years. If they only worked in one state in the United States where they were built, that would be ridiculous. They can function in any of the states. They can function around the world on biofuel,
Flex
on
fuel,
ethanol,
all
they're
kinds of
flex
fuel.
fuel. So
During the Second
this
World
can be
War, you had
done.
flex fuel tanks.
this is not, this has been done, it's being done. It's the information about how important it is being suppressed, and by companies who are in a position to suppress it.
They can afford to
And they can
control the
afford to
media.
control the media. They can afford to change the laws. The change, it is the information that can be revealed through an investigation of fraud of ExxonMobil is invaluable for the understanding, for the education of the public about what happens when a company has totally accepted the premise of our economic system and is actually playing it to the maximum. This is and the results that you're going to receive from that kind of behavior. And it's not the only company that does it. It is allowed by the way we practice economics, and that's why that is the system, the human system, that needs to refocus on human needs, human renewable energy
Measured
in
energy
the economic
units in the economic system.
But meanwhile, congratulations to Attorney General Eric Snyderman and his courage
And by the
and his
way,
persistence in this case. Do not stop.
we
Please.
have to change. Look, it's not just the oil companies. The oil companies, the pharmaceutical companies, the insurance companies. And we all are complicitous in our thinking process. We're all part of the problem.
Because we've been trained to work within this sector.
We have no choice. And if we don't face the fact that we are part of it, we're never going to be able to change it. We are killing people every single day. We don't want to kill people, but we are. And we need to make sure
with the
that
way that we function within our economics.
we
right?
have to change the basic essence
If
of
you
the
want to talk
economic
about
system.
world government, that's what our economic system is now. It's a type of world government.
And it doesn't matter. And it's
the companies that are
it's a parasitical economic system. It's going to eat itself up. It'll wipe out the human race if we keep doing this. The planet will be here. And maybe the next group of
life will come up in a
it'll
different
come
way.
up in a different way.
Right.
Maybe the next group of theoretical human beings, if they ever call them that, and will change. But right now we have an opportunity. The Pope's been saying the same thing. This has been Sunday on the front stoop.
It's important to keep in mind that the ExxonMobil knew, because they had research scientists on staff, they knew about the damage that they were doing to climate. They continue to make profit to this day in those same terms that they've always had. If there was a research scientist that worked for ExxonMobil and they were to come forward and help Attorney General Eric Snyderman at this point be a whistleblower, really, this would be wonderful.
He could subpoena them.
Yes, it's possible, but will they lie for their company? Don't lie for your company. Somebody has to come forward, either voluntarily or if you're subpoenaed, please tell the truth.
Or at least, it's not just the oil companies, though. It's for the pharmaceutical company. The EpiPen thing was so obvious. It's controlling,
because that's affecting a certain percentage, but this is affecting every person on the planet.
I had a conversation a few minutes before the show, and we talked about when should you collect Social Security. we're all so worried about money that we forget about our life.
Okay.
And I love that joke, your money or your life. And they say, take my life, I'm saving my money for my old age. That's exactly what we're doing.
How many minutes are we going to go over time?
I'm going to stop at about another 4 or 5 more minutes.
Okay, can I make
You
one
go
more
ahead,
point?
sure.
I put a note for this the other day. Sometimes a thought comes to my head, and we used to have obstacles as the human race, physical obstacles, like mountain ranges would slow us down, or oceans. It took a long time for Europeans to come to what they called the New World, though there were other people, obviously Indians here already. They'd come over the Bering Strait thousands of years before the Europeans. And that was a obstacle too. That strait, it had to defrost a bit and become a land bridge so physical things were obstacles to our human species over the most of our history. If you want to say we've been around sort of in different forms, but in our present form, maybe 1 million years. It's always been physical, obvious things. There's a mountain range there. There's an ocean there I can't cross, and there are actually sea serpents in there. So there were psychological barriers to the challenges of physical.
The same as they are now.
Right.
I can't do that. It's too far away. It costs me too much money.
Now we have a barrier, and we have many barriers. But one of the main barriers is our economic system. It is acting on the human race like one of these physical obstacles was in our history. It has halted our progress as a species, because we are functioning within the context of a flawed assumption that profit is the only good.
The only value is in money or gold or silver. That is not true.
And this is damaging our ability to evolve as a species, because it is halting our diversity, essentially. Everything is in terms of how much money you can make. Everything is in terms of actually the companies trying to get you to work for less, and people having to work more hours in order to make, because they're not getting less, so they have to work more hours. This is becoming, it is absorbing people's lifetimes completely. It didn't used to absorb our lifetimes completely, because actually the companies used to be directed to pay more taxes. Now they pay none or very little. So the extra value of all of our wonderful technologies is not coming back into the general population. It's being hoarded more and more and more. But it's important to realize that this obstacle, this economics, as we're practicing it now, is damaging our evolution, our species evolution. It's trapping us like we were in a little tidal pool, and it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and the water is evaporating, and we can't get out because we've got this obstacle there. And it's very important.
Thank you all for listening. This has been Jeff and Susan and Dennis, and we'll see you on Wednesday on World Call In. And
try to stretch your paycheck, but it's never quite enough. Oh, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone. Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy. Fossil fuel affects our lives like ripples on a lake. Cars and farms and factories and trucks. Supplies go down and prices soar. Our futures are at stake. And when it's gone, it won't come back, and we'll be out of luck. Oh, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone. Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes down to energy. We can get our energy from corn and grass and trees. Even trash converts to biofuels. Break loose from the stranglehold of oil companies. Renewables can fuel the world. We're here to spread the news. Oh, energy, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone. Well, here's some fuel for thought. It all comes to energy.